Do you want to expand your vocabulary with common phrasal verbs to help you sound just like a native English speaker? Well, that's what you'll do today. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. First, in this lesson, I'm going to quiz you to see how well you know these common phrasal verbs. And then after, we'll review each phrasal verb in detail. So let's start the quiz right now. Question 1. We should the party with some karaoke. Now, I'm only going to give you 3 seconds to answer, so feel free to hit pause, take as much time as you need, and when you're ready, hit play to see the answer. We should kick off. Question 2, you don't need to. Your team, I've heard great things about them. Talk up. Question 3, make sure your team doesn't while the CEO is here. Horse around. Question 4, it really, when Jeremy took credit for my work. Ticked me off. Question 5, he's been since he lost the contract. Moping around. Question 6, we're on a tight budget, but we have enough to get by. Question 7, the expense reports have been since Sarah left. Piling up. Question 8, I've learned to my mother when she gives me relationship advice. Tune out. Question 9, she used to be very serious, but she's a bit loosened up. Question 10, my boss is going to when she learns we lost the account. Flip out. So how did you do with that quiz? Don't worry if it was difficult, because now I'm going to explain every phrasal verb in detail. Let's get started. Number 1, to tune out. This is a very useful phrasal verb because it's used to say you stop listening to someone, you stop paying attention to them because you don't like what they're saying, basically. So you tune someone out. This is something that kids do all the time with their parents, right? If your parent is giving you advice and you don't want to hear it, you just tune them out. So your parent is talking, but you're just not really listening. So you might say, I always tune out my mom when she gives me relationship advice. Now, this can also happen a lot in a workplace situation. Let's say the coworker that sits beside you is just a very negative person and complains a lot. You might just simply tune them out. So you stop listening to them because you don't want to hear all that negativity and complaining. So you just tune them out. They're talking, but you're not listening. Number 2, to tick off. This is a useful one because it means to annoy, to anger, or to irritate. Now, we use this in 2 very specific sentence structures. It ticks someone off. It ticks me off when my coworker doesn't help. So it ticks someone off, and then you explain the situation that causes the anger, the frustration, or the irritation. Now, the other sentence structure is just to say someone or something ticks me off. John really ticks me off. He's so negative. John really irritates me, frustrates me, annoys me. John really ticks me off. He's so negative, but I just tune him out. Number 3, to talk up. And you talk someone or something up. And that means you speak in a way that makes that someone or something sound really beneficial, really positive, really amazing, maybe even more so than the reality. So let's say you're in sales and you're trying to sell this piece of software to a company. Well, you're going to talk up that software. You're going to talk about that software in a way that really highlights all of its positive features. And you probably won't mention any negative features. You're going to talk it up. Or let's say that your really close friend applied for a job in your company. Well, you're probably going to talk up your friend. You're going to speak about your friend very enthusiastically, very positively, because you want your friend to get the job. You're going to talk up your friend. Number 4, to pile up. This means simply to increase in amount. And we generally use this with work. So in general, you could say work is really piling up. Work is increasing in amount. You can use this with specific work. So you might say, my expense reports are piling up. Or even with household chores, you might say the laundry is piling up. The dirty dishes are piling up. They're increasing in amount. Number 5, to mope around. To mope around, this is when someone moves from one location to another, but they do it in a very unhappy way, a lazy way, a disappointed way. And it's generally because something is wrong. Something specific is wrong. So maybe they just lost their job, or they just broke up with their girlfriend, so they mope around the house all day. They go from the couch to the kitchen, back to the couch, but they look really upset and lazy and no energy. So this isn't really a positive thing. We generally say, stop moping around. You need to stop moping around and start looking for a job. If that's the reason why you're moping around because you lost your job. Stop moping around and look for a job. Number 6, to loosen up. This is a great one. It means to be more relaxed, more comfortable, or less serious. So you might say, she was very shy at first, but then she loosened up. So she became more relaxed, more comfortable. Now, we often use this as advice to someone. If someone is just being too serious, you might say, loosen up, loosen up. It's similar to saying, relax a little, loosen up. You need to loosen up. Oh, just loosen up. Number 7, to kick off. This is a great one because when you kick something off, it means you start. But we use this in the context of a sports event, a meeting, a conference, or even a party. So some sort of event with people. So in sports, it's very common to say the game, the match kicks off at, and then you say the time. The match kicks off at 3. The game kicks off at 7. And that's just when the game starts. Now, you could also say, let's kick off the meeting by, and then you can explain how you're going to start the meeting. Let's kick off the meeting by introducing the new CFO. Or let's kick off the meeting by sharing the good news. Number 8, this is a fun one, to horse around. When you horse around, you behave in a silly or noisy way. So basically what children do all the time. They horse around. But you might say, the kids were horsing around and they broke my favorite vase. Now, although this is commonly used in children, it can of course be used for adults as well, because adults act in silly and noisy ways all the time, right? Even in workplace contexts. So you might be talking about how your team is constantly horsing around. And as a bonus, you can also say goof around. It's an alternative, but they're both very commonly used. So horse around or goof around. Number 9, to get by. This is when you have just enough money to live on, but not very much extra. So you can basically pay all your bills and that's about it. So you might say, since our twins were born, it's been more difficult to get by. You have 2 new babies in the house. Well, first, congratulations, but of course, that's very expensive. So now you only have enough money to pay your bills, to buy the food, buy the diapers, buy the groceries, pay your mortgage, things like that. We're getting by. We're getting by. You're just surviving. So if someone knows you're going through a tough time financially, maybe you lost your job, and they ask you, how's it going? Is everything okay? You could say, well, I'm getting by. I'm getting by, which lets them know you're surviving. You have enough to pay all your core expenses. And finally, number 10, to flip out. Now this can mean to become very excited, but it can also mean to become very angry or agitated. So it's when you have a very strong emotion, but that emotion can be positive, excitement, or it can be negative, anger. And it will be obvious based on context. So if you just won a competition or a prize or the lottery, you might flip out and become very, very excited, right? The sports team flipped out when they won the gold medal. Or the team flipped out when they lost the game. The team became very angry. So you can use it in both situations. And for this expression, you can also say freak out. Freak out, flip out, they mean the same. And again, positive excitement or negative anger. So now that you're more comfortable with these phrasal verbs, how about we do that exact same quiz again so you can see how much you've improved. So here are the questions. Hit pause, take as much time as you need, and when you're ready, hit play to see the answers. Here are the answers. Go ahead and hit pause and figure out how you did. So how'd you do with that quiz the second time? I'm sure it was a lot easier. Make sure you share both of your scores in the comments below so you can see the difference from the first score to the second score. And do you want to learn more phrasal verbs? If you do, then put phrasal verbs in the comments and I'll keep teaching you the most common phrasal verbs. And of course, make sure you like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And why don't you keep improving your English with this lesson right now?